Good morning, afternoon, evening. Thank you for joining me today for this presentation. I will be speaking or presenting about an empirical quasi-experimental classroom study that examines the impact of sustained teacher modeled counting gestures on first grade arithmetic learning. This project is designed to bridge the embodied cognition theory with practical, scalable classroom instruction. What makes it unique is that it's not a short-term lab experiment. This is a 4-week intervention embedded in a classroom, real classroom's routine aimed to improve both procedural fluency and conceptual understanding. Excuse me there. Introduction to the problem. Early mastery of addition and subtraction lays in the foundation for later mathematical success. However, many first graders depend heavily on procedural shortcuts like finger counting. While this may help them reach the correct answer, it can mask important conceptual gaps such as weak understanding of one-to-one correspondence or how to efficiently group numbers into tens. According to cognitive load theory, working memory can be overwhelmed when students try to process both procedural steps and conceptual relationships at the same time. Without targeted intervention, these gaps can persist and widen over time, especially in classrooms with limited individual support. Theoretical framework, embodied cognition, as mentioned. This study is grounded in embodied cognition, which argues that thinking is fundamentally shaped by sensory and motor experiences. Shapiro emphasizes that perception, action, and cognition form a unified, interconnected system. In math education, this means students can benefit from physically interacting with numbers, concepts, and relationships rather than only processing them symbolically. Gestures provide a bridge between concrete action and abstract reasoning, helping students reduce cognitive load and build stronger mental models. Prior evidence for gestures. Research has consistently shown that gestures can enhance learning. Golden Medal and colleagues found that children who tapped as they counted learned number sequences faster and internalized counting principles more deeply. Another study showed that gestures improved counting accuracy and coordination. And another study demonstrated that active gesturing during fraction instruction promoted better conceptual transfer than manipulatives. These findings suggest that gestures do more than just assist in the moment. They can change the way students represent and apply mathematical ideas. Research gaps. Despite strong evidence from controlled experiments, there is a lack of sustained classroom-based gestured interventions, especially in early grades. Most studies are short and a few have examined the separate effects of teacher modeling and student gesture production. My study addresses these gaps with a low-cost, scalable program that can be implemented in any school requiring no special equipment or advanced training. Research questions. This study addresses three main research questions. First, does teacher model gesture instructions improve arithmetic fluency compared to traditional verbal only lessons? Second, does it improve conceptual understanding of addition and subtraction? And third, is there a relationship between fluency of student produced gestures and post intervention fluency and conceptual understanding? These questions focus not only on learning outcomes, but also the process driving them. The methodology for this empirical study. The study uses an empirical quasi experimental pre-test post-test control group design. Two intact first grade classrooms from the same suburban elementary school will participate, with each classroom having 30 students and equals 30 for each classroom, for a total of six, capital N equals 60. All right. So with N equals 30 classrooms in each classroom for a total of 60 students in the overall study. One classroom will receive the gesture integrated instruction, while the other will receive verbal only instruction. Before assigning the conditions, the classrooms are matched on distinct math pre-assessment scores, percentage of students eligible for free or reduced price lunch, and English language proficiency rates to ensure the groups are comparable at baseline. The independent variable is the instructional method, gesture integrated versus verbal only instruction in the classrooms. The dependent variables are the arithmetic fluency measured by time problem assessments and the conceptual understanding measured through structured interview scored and a conceptual rubric. The intervention, right? The gesturing mass scaffolding program. The program introduces three target gestures: the count on, tap, the carry pinch, and the group of 10 sweep. Teachers use laminated prompt cards, scripted lessons that specify when and how to use gestures, and consistent verbal cues linking action to concept. Students maintain gesture journals, drawing the movements and explaining their meaning. A classroom gesture station provides additional opportunities for independent or peer practice. The aim is to make these gestures an embedded part of the math learning process. Our data collection occurs over 5 weeks. In week 0, all students complete a time fluency test and participate in a conceptual interview. Weeks 1 through 4 are dedicated to the intervention, with every lesson video recorded to track teacher modeling and student gesture use. In week 5, the same fluency tests are in week 5, excuse me. In week 5, the same fluency tests and interviews are repeated. This design provides a pre-post test comparison and allows us to link gesture frequency to learning outcomes. Data analysis. A two-way mixed ANOVA test will allow us, or excuse me, a two-way ANOVA will test for the significant interactions between time, right, pre and post, and the groups, the classrooms, right? The gestures versus non-gestures, or gestures versus verbal only. Conceptual understanding will be coded into levels. rote counting, procedural strategy, conceptual explanation, and this will be analyzed using chi-square test. We'll also run Pearson correlation to see if higher gesture frequency is associated with greater gains in fluency and conceptual understanding. Expected results. I expect students in the gesture group to show larger gains in both fluency and conceptual understanding compared to the control group. I also expect within the gesture group, students who use gestures more frequently will have a stronger post-test outcome. This pattern would support the idea that gestures serve as a transitional scaffold, moving from physical action to internal mental representation. Our contributions. This study extends its embodied cognition research into authentic classroom environment. It provides empirical evidence for a low-cost, easily scalable intervention that can be implemented without special resources. Because gestures are accessible to all students, regardless of background, this approach supports educational equity while promoting deeper math learning. Limitations thought of while con, con limitations while they something to consider, right? Limitations are something to consider. So there are limitations to consider. The sample size, two classrooms with a total of 60 overall, limits the general ability of the findings. The 4-week duration may capture short-term effects, but not long-term retention. Novelty effects may boost early engagement, and variation in teacher delivery could influence outcomes. Future research should include more classrooms, longer interventions, and monitoring of the implementation of this gesture scaffolding program. Conclusion. The empirical quasi-experimental study demonstrates that gestures are more than just hand movements. There are cognitive tools that can enhance both speed and depth in learning. Embedding them into instruction can also help students not only arrive at the right answer, but understand the relationship behind it. This approach is practical, adoptable, and grounded in theory with the potential to extend to other math topics like place value, fractions, and multiplications. Brings us to our references, and thank you for your attention. If any questions are come to mind, please let me know and I'll be more than glad to assist.